What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Hello, and welcome to the live stream of consciousness. You made it. I made it. This is the happiest place on the internet. I know that's a large, bold claim to make, but it is, for me, certainly the happiest place on the internet. And I'm the one who's saying that. So from my perception, it is the happiest place on the internet. It's my happy place, definitely, for the week. Each week, I make sure I'm here to be here with you guys and to talk to my guests and have some amazing conversations. So here we are. And let me explain to you how that works. So for me, my perception, it's the happiest place on the internet. For some of my viewers, I know it is. I know Lily's out there. What's up, Lily? Ninja Kitty. She's told me that this is the happiest place for her. So for her, it's the happiest place. So combined, we kind of grow the idea that it's the happiest place on the internet. And I guess as people subscribe to that idea and find it to be the happiest place on the internet, it will become the happiest place on the internet. I know it's your happy place, Lily. Thank you so much for saying that and sharing it. And I did get a message from you today. Thank you so much for sending me a message, just appreciating my last week's tribute to you with the Ninja Kitty AI, and that you've been playing with AI is very good to hear. And you said something else in the message I wanted to address. You talked about just having a rough time, and that it lifted up your day. And I just wanted to say about having a rough time with the circumstances that you mentioned are external, and things that you enjoyed were going into AI and creating, and that's internal. You're creating. So there's the power of that, right? The things that are internal that you have control over are going to bring you joy, and don't let those other things bring you down. So I just wanted to thank you for that amazing note today, and thank you for always being here, Ninja Kitty. It's very awesome. So I am super duper excited tonight because I have some guests on my show that are doing some really amazing things that I want to talk about, but they're also just two of my favorite humans, two people that it's like when you vibrate on the same vibration, you just know that you resonate with those people. And they were on Janice's show last night, and it was just so much fun to watch because the vibe was so awesome. The love was there, the authenticity was there. We talk about that a lot, and it was just amazing to see. And I'm excited to create that here tonight. So I'm going to introduce two people who have been on my show, both individually before, but together they make a more powerful entity. And I'm talking, of course, about CODY Snider and Tanya Dahl, collectively known now as Acid for Squares, who had an amazing day today. So I'm excited to even get the conversation going. So welcome to the show, CODY and Tanya. How you guys doing?
Yes, we're trying to mess with our...
Let's see, we're trying to see if our mic here.
Oh, we go. Wait.
Yeah, I hear you.
No,
all right, is this
wait,
better? We
better?
got the Shure mic. Is this working now?
You sound wonderful. Awesome.
Okay,
Cool.
And you've got these amazing rays of light coming down
Yeah,
on you.
I don't know what's going on here.
All right.
It's the way it's supposed to be. It's awesome. I love it.
Zin, thank you for the lovely introduction.
I know, you're the best.
The feeling's mutual. And it's nice to see. Look at what you got. Look how you've evolved. I love your whole setup. It looks like a...
It does. You look like you're in some sort of like portal.
I am. I'm in a portal to my happy place. This is my happy place on the internet. It's like,
Love it.
Oh man, we're happy to be with you in your happy place.
Yes.
Our happy place too. Yeah, excited to connect.
Awesome. So I got so much to talk about with you guys. I'm so excited. Normally the show's an hour. I don't know what kind of time you guys have. Just tell me one thing, because I was thinking about this as I was waiting for you, and you guys were like, I knew you were going to be here, but I'm like, I wonder if I'm taking them away. Like, is your whole family together right now and you guys left just to be on the show?
So it's a little more complicated than that. So what Zin's
Good.
referring to is my brother, her brother-in-law is, and sister-in-law just had a baby. They had a little emergency C-section today. Very interesting because she's a doula. She's a very naturopathic spiritual
She wanted
woman.
an at-home birth, completely natural, everything, and it just kind of everything just didn't work out. The baby was too big, all this sort of stuff.
Baby too big, record level big, had to get through the
Yeah.
hospital.
The hospital was like, they said it was 22 inches, which is the longest, like it tiered with the longest recorded baby at the hospital. The baby.
I don't think I've ever even heard of a baby 22 inches.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
wild. Yeah, and it's so interesting as we're sitting here going like, why is this happening to her? This is someone who's so studied. No, it's her first child. She's a doula. She knows everything about it. But I feel like it's just like a lesson in like, it's that Mike
Surrender.
Yes, it's surrender. It's that Mike Tyson quote. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
That's right.
And everybody's journey is different. And it doesn't make you any less than if you're doing an at-home birth or you're in the ICU or C-section.
It's a great way to look at it. Absolutely, yeah. Totally.
We'll end up seeing her tomorrow.
The answer
that's a big baby. It is.
That's a big baby. The answer is that only 3 at a time in the hospital room, so it all worked out, and they've been up for days, so it all we have the space, and it all worked out exactly. But thank you for being so considerate. Yeah. We'll see them tomorrow.
Well, one thing is the consideration, but the other thing is the fear of the wrath of the Snider energy, because that Snider family, the family energy is so amazing and powerful, and like, of course you've got D at the helm, so I mean, I just didn't want to piss anybody off.
It's all love. It's all love, Zin. Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, you will never experience the wrath, at least of the Sniders. I can't. Yeah. My father's a whole nother story. He operates on his own. So.
Yeah, you know what? I've talked about it before, and Jesse started this show with me, and I just have so much admiration for your family as a unit and as individuals. It's just really phenomenal, and as it grows and people become a part of that, they are also, Tanya, you're just phenomenal. It's amazing.
Thanks, Zen. I feel the same.
Yeah. She's the best. Love her. Yeah, she's a real one.
We should get married or something.
I know. She's a hippie punk like the rest of us.
Totally. I love it. You guys are your own genre, and it's like I was saying, there's so much authenticity, and I think that's just, I want to talk to you about the podcast that you got coming up in a bit. We'll talk about that. But so I've asked you guys on the show individually the live stream of consciousness, prerequisite, what is consciousness? And I was trying to think, okay, I know that you never stand in the same river twice, so I could ask you the same question and get a different answer, just a little bit with a new twist to it, right? But today's situation made me think about maybe putting a little twist on that question. And what do you think consciousness is in relationship to a new life on this planet? Like where does this all fall into play? What is consciousness in regards to the new Snider baby?
Well, I mean, the thing is that, we know that children are in the theta state until around 7 years old. So they're building their subconscious mind. So they don't actually even understand themselves for quite some time. Mm-hmm. So the idea of like them actually being like conscious, like aware of themselves would be, I feel like, near impossible, but maybe that's not true because we might not know about newborns. Newborns might actually be, because they're like directly from the source. Maybe they are just very open and conscious and aware, and they're coming in from past life going, wait, I just got murdered by my samurai sword and now I'm here and what? I'm covered in goo?
Yeah, I actually think that's actually a really interesting point, and we probably talked about this last time, but consciousness itself, at least to me or to us, is awareness itself. And, I think the awareness itself, not awareness of self. No. Okay. Awareness of self is the illusion that's programmed into us. Consciousness itself is essentially the natural state of being. And at least how we sort of operate is there's only one universal truth, which is all is one. one is all, and everything else is a gradient of distortion, essentially getting away from that one central universal truth. And that's sort of how the dimensions are created. That's whatever this illusion of separation we're in is such a distant pocket of, you know, call it God, call it source, where essentially we forgot that we're connected and we're living in this illusion of separation where everything we experience is separate, but we now know at a quantum level is all connected. So, I mean, if you want to say bring a new life into the world, I mean, me and Tanya, we're constantly talking about bringing new life into this world. So, and it's, I think it's our central like conversation, I think.
Yeah.
So we can't, you know,
it's a big one.
And I think we're most concerned around the cultural programming and having to watch them go through the journey of be programmed, shed the programming, go through that hardship. But at the same time, you know, yeah. So I think, would you agree that consciousness is awareness itself, or do you believe, you know, or is, what do you?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like a person can is conscious, is aware, being aware of your awareness. So it's being aware that you're aware, but that there's somebody else driving this and this like little meat suit.
Right. Yeah. I think consciousness is essentially a non-denominational, secular understanding of spirit. So spirit is consciousness. Consciousness is the term that we give spirit, you know, in the Western world. And that's how we essentially divest it of its religiosity so we can actually like put it on the table and take it apart. So, I mean, like, it's essentially just this energetic life force, this universal Wi-Fi that you're either connected to, you're not connected to. And yeah.
Well, explain that. How would you not be connected to it?
So it's the illusion of self. So the ego itself disconnects us. So, I mean, it's very simple. Like for me, at least, like things have kind of become a binary of connection or disconnect. Actually, we spoke about it on Janice's podcast. You know, love is only love is real. All we need is love. I love you. You know, that's the word we use for connection. It's the feeling of connection. That's so all those other frequencies, whether it's shame, doubt, fear, guilt, jealousy, those are the things that disconnect us. And predominantly it's the ego itself that disconnects us from essentially the greater whole. So, I mean, so, you know, it's all disease comes from essentially this energetic stagnation that happens when you essentially psycho-spiritually disconnect yourself from nature, from the other, from the other parts of God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
After every time we call Cody's little rants, he goes, wait, did that make sense?
I love how giddy you guys are.
Checking in.
I love it. No, you make a lot of sense, and it's very interesting because I think I wrote down a couple of things. I've been really I'm very interested in these conversations, right, that stimulate you to think about humanity and what's going on and consciousness and all of this stuff. So I've been listening to, I mean, I had listened to Russell Brand for years and Joe Rogan and all of those, but now there's Jordan Peterson and Matt Walsh and these people who I wouldn't think I would find engaging, but I am finding very engaging. Lex Friedman, and I just saw Bishop Robert Barron, who's a religious leader who was, man, I'm going to look up his stuff, because just listening to this guy talk, you're like, you see the connection between religion and spirituality and this deeper understanding, you know, of love, because religion, it gets a bad rap, and rightfully so. You know, there's a lot of reasons that it gets a bad rap, and well earned, but there are also a lot of really beautiful things about religion, right, that they're supposed to be based on. So
at the very least, it creates community.
Right. Absolutely. So for me, I struggled for a long time, and I've spoken about this with the word God, right? There's so much packed into that word there's so much packed into it, but he was talking about defining God and just understanding God on a different level. And it totally relates to what you were just saying about consciousness. And almost my question is almost like, well, is consciousness itself God? Because you're talking about that.
Yes.
And if we subscribe to, okay, there is a piece of God in me, and that consciousness that runs this meat suit that you're talking about is that piece of God, then consciousness is God, right?
Totally.
Yes.
So Cody and I both, like, we work with entheogenic plants and stuff like that. And we learn how to channel and whatever. And so something that has been told to me, sorry if there's like a siren going on outside.
That's okay.
Something that's been told to me is that how, like, the dimensions work and how everything works is literally source consciousness breaks itself to experience itself without knowing that it is God broken off. And then once it figures out it's God, then it breaks itself off, and then so far and so forth until it figures itself out. So each dimension is the one that creates the dimension below it for higher levels of learning. And so we're in the third dimension, which is God experiencing itself. It's experiencing itself. So it's three, you experience it from the third dimension. And so
well, so you know, I mean, yeah, you're getting into the makeup of the dimensions. I mean, one of the things I'd add to that's it, because God is consciousness, because that's the single source.
The single source, right?
Single
right.
Source
The source of it all. Yeah.
The other ones, right?
So this is very fascinating. You know, I mean, you're asking essentially, is consciousness God itself? I think one of the fascinating things, being someone who was raised atheist and agnostic and, you know, inadvertently stumbled down the medicine path and this like awakening path. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to get a grip on my mental health from being on pharmaceutical meds for ADHD for so long. And one of the first things that happens is reality itself, especially if you're in nature, if you're in essentially a fictionalized, you know, you're in an apartment and everything's fake. If you're in nature and you're working with entheogenic medicines in a proper setting, shamanically, dieted properly, which pretty much means you don't have anything in your system, or just plants, reality looks back at you. All of a sudden, first you see the vibration, everything's vibrating, and you're like, oh wait, I know that from science, that everything is essentially molecules vibrating. And then the next thing that kind of happens is everything sort of becomes eyeballs, and then it's as real as you're looking back at me. It's reality, consciousness is looking back at you, and you sort of realize, holy shit, I am in God. I'm a part of God.
It's
and all my sickness and suffering is coming from thinking I am separate from God. So God itself essentially is a non-physical form. It's antimatter. You know, it is the quartz of energy, the quantum energy that makes up or manifests as the physical material we experience in this reality. Right. So the thing is that energy, everyone calls it something different. So the 0 point field, unified field, vril, prana, chi, call it energy, call it whatever you want, the vibe, that energy is inherently intelligent. How we perceive the intelligent energy is essentially a self-organizing principle. All of nature are self-organizing principles. It comes off as magnetic. Essentially, what we view as magnetism is essentially intelligent infinity populating and essentially finding flows of energy no matter what pockets of density or separation happen. This is a long-winded way of saying that, yes, God is consciousness. We are God, or a part of God, experiencing an illusion of separation and an illusion of limitedness. Which is the cause of pretty much all of this suffering. That's why all ancient spiritual practices are about dissolving the ego, dissolving the sense of self, serving the whole instead of the self.
To bring yourself back to the source consciousness that you are.
Yes. So I mean, the answer to your question is yes, but the only other thing I think, which is fascinating, you know, is that we both have some like religious trauma. Like growing up in the world and seeing problems with religiosity.
I feel like we all do in the West.
Right. And I literally had, once I came to so many of these realizations, I used to go and sit in churches and just for Sunday ceremony to get to sit through the discomfort so I could face my my prejudice against religions. But this is a long-winded way of saying, so what's the problem with religion outside of their distortion? It's more that it separates the individual from spirit. From God. It says God is outside of yourself, and only through us you can get there, as opposed to
which is so crazy, right? That they've even gotten away with that, and that the truth of religion is so opposite that, you know, it's really crazy. You said, excuse me, you said so many things that I want to hit on there, Cody.
Sorry.
I knew this conversation was going to be amazing. You said something about when you get to a certain point, this realization, and Tanya, you said it too, these eyes everywhere looking back at you. And
Yes.
immediately I thought of visionary artists like Alex Gray.
1000%.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Identical.
Yeah, I mean, and a guy who's been on this show, Bowen Bromwell, who is a young guy and really a visionary artist like that. And a lot of he's got these mushroom pyramids with eyes and like tons of you're nailing it right on the head, describing it right on the head. So back to Bishop Robert Barron, the conversation that I saw. I wrote his name down because I'm like, I have to remember that. I have to see more of this conversation.
You're gonna have to text us that name.
Yeah.
I want to look it up.
Bishop Robert Barron.
Yeah. And the Lex Freeman interview, he was talking about God, and I think it was Moses talking to God or some conversation, but like, what is God? And God is to be, right? So in other words, God is the essence of everything. So all of this right here, this space that they say is dark matter and where stuff doesn't exist, that's God in his formless form.
Yeah.
Right. And you and me, we're God in a form that has intention to become that form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This book has the intention to become this book, and there's God in this book, and it's become this book. I mean,
as we know, it's just vibration. It's just it's a denser vibration. That's all it is.
It's just a thought. It's just a thought that you didn't even know this book was here until I picked it up and said it, and I put that thought in your head, and now you see it and experience it the way I do because of the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Right.
But wow. Oh,
right. So the collective consciousness is essentially, is God, right? Or source, consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, when we say, so there's the collective consciousness, which people also call it the subconsciousness, which I always think of it like a universal Wi-Fi that essentially we just don't know the password to. But if you stop it, through meditation, you can either still your mind, or through psychedelic medicines, you can override your nervous system, and essentially you can merge with that intelligence. And the process itself can be very painful, but because it's essentially you're attuning yourself to a vibration that is so high, it can literally make you sick depending on the methodology you use. But I mean, like, we always kind of come back to, well, you don't want to say, because you say he said he had resistances around saying God.
Oh yeah,
which is very similar to
it was similar to us too. We were the exact same way. And recently we spoke to a friend of ours who's a shaman down in Costa Rica, and she was talking about how she's like, you have to use the G word, like you have to say God, like it's so important right now for some particular reason. And so we started being like, okay, like let's figure out, we need to, like, what are our rubs with it? Where does it come from? And obviously it comes from our, trauma from like childhood, or also probably ancestral trauma of, the religious structures, but but that was a thing. So we completely understand the idea of being like,
so how far have you gotten with that? Because I know for me, I've come to terms with it. I
just started using the word God this year. This year would not touch it. We would talk all the time about like how fascinating it's like the F word, like all these negative things, the N word, and then it's like, it's like the L word, love, like the L word's this bastardized thing. I know it's not essentially God, but the point is the trauma around this thing is one of the things that keeps us connected to this thing. Although we do also feel like creating new words that don't have trauma on them to allow us to enter the conversation again, like is an interesting function of of culture. So we always wonder what the word is. What do we use?
I mean, the thing is that I think that if you're speaking publicly about something, like I've done before in my like TikTok videos and stuff, where I say, I'm going to call it God for this particular video. You can call it source, consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. But from this particular video, I'm going to call it God. And so that way it's like, okay, we all understand we're talking about this bigger, higher concept of source or universe, whatever people may call it. But then it kind of trickles it in a little bit instead of it
Yeah, we're always trying to find the
balance.
the balance.
Yeah, no, that works. And it's kind of important what you said there too. I think for me, what made it work and what helped was I would, anytime the word, even I encountered it or whatever in my head, I would replace it with the word universe or something that made sense in that context.
Yeah.
And I would also surpass or bypass my ego and the need to like tell whoever it is that's saying it, like, this was what I was thinking about it. Like, doesn't even matter. It's my own issue, right? So I would just in my head replace the word, and eventually I was like, oh yeah, it's all the same thing. It all means the same thing. Part of what I think was the seed of this show and me feeling so comfortable with it and saying, hey, you know what? I've got all of these friends who are psychic mediums, Akashic records readers,
wizards,
Reiki masters, all of these different what's the word I'm looking for? Modalities, right?
Yeah.
They all look exactly the same to me. I see them the same. They all like have the same glow. They all have the same vibration. They all feel the same to me. You know what I mean?
They feel almost like home.
Yeah. He's hitting on something very interesting, which is essentially like, look, we talk about God, which is the name. It's all semantic. It's all semantics. And there's no religion in the spirit world, and certainly consciousness or spirit, or when you do interface with it on a direct level, it doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what religion you speak. And a fascinating thing that we find as we hold space for medicine ceremonies is we find that people, when they're getting their initiation, spirit meets them and speaks the language that speaks to them. Right. So fascinatingly enough,
they even show up physically in what makes sense to them. Like the first time they showed up to me like cartoons.
Yes, they usually start with animation. And one of the first, I remember giving initiation.
That's cool.
Dude, it is so trippy, especially when they then say, okay, next level, and they merge it out of cartoons. And you're like, oh no. Shit.
Wow.
So I remember I'm giving my childhood best friend his initiation. He's literally my babysitter, my oldest friend. And I'm sitting there by the couch because he refused to do it outside. And I'm watching him transition 30 minutes to 45 minutes, which is usually where it happens. The conversation starts and you realize, oh, this ain't like the movies. This isn't like a hallucination. It's a telepathic contact. And they're showing him Rick and Morty to explain portals, to explain what's happening to him. I'm looking at him talk to them. Oh, what, Rick and Morty? Like what? They're trying to say it's a portal. Like this is what's happening. So the point is like, it's all semantic confusion. And
Shane also had cartoons, right, for his first one?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought so.
I haven't a clue. My and it changes over time. We actually wonder a lot because the goalpost keeps moving, because we go into ceremony and it keeps taking us deeper into shit that we couldn't have handled, 5 years ago. It's like
spoon fed.
It's like breadcrumbing, like slowly. We always wonder. We're like, wait, like.
What is it really?
Like
because this is what it looks like right now, but it changes.
They're showing us, the first it's cartoon, then it's like
aliens,
and then now it's gods. It's like Hindu, like what is it frequency?
It's wild.
So we don't even, we're figuring it out.
So now we don't really like to say something is something particular because of the fact that it shape shifts over time. Well, as we grow, it grows because it doesn't grow, but it's spoon feeding us. So it's giving us a little bit more information.
It meets you where you are. It only pushes you as far as you can go. And it doesn't want to like scare you, even though I get pretty scared by it, but it doesn't want to freak you out. And at the end of the day, we're dealing with a force that when in direct contact seems alien. It's non-corporeal. It's energetic. It's a frequency and vibration, and it's so intelligent and ancient that it, shook me to my fucking core. She is a wizard in the medicine. Actually, women in general are,
really?
Dude. Yes, everything I do spiritually is to become more like a woman, and I mean that in the sense that they're more open and they're more emotionally connected, and men were a little more mental.
Well, so I have a friend that's a Freemason, and one time when he was drunk, he told me that the Freemasons, the reason why they wouldn't allow women in there is literally because they believe that women have a portal to the Creator because they give life. Yeah. And so men have to do ritual like in sacred geometry, like there are certain ritualistic things in order to have that same connection to God.
Wow.
And or open the portal to be able to have like direct connection to it. But
Right.
I also don't know if I believe that, because I feel like everybody's
In which sense? Which
like, I mean, like, yes, ritual can help. It can help with making a clearer connection for anyone, but I don't know if I think women are just maybe more used to it or something. They're used to the vibration, so it might be easier for them to step into, but I don't know if I believe that like women are somehow like
More divine or something.
yeah.
Well, we don't want, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously I don't want to like put some sort of like something out there that like it makes men feel like they're less than. I think just emotions, you know, are energy and motion, and it's a sensitivity to this essentially.
Well, yeah, it could be a cultural thing, you know, like
Yes.
a human thing. You know what I mean? These gender roles may have
Mhm.
actually, you know, made women more, you know, closer to where they need to be, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Society screwed up all of us.
I mean, and you talk about not knowing, you know, not knowing exactly, especially because we feel like these ceremonies, like a lot of the information, it's like kind of trickstery. Like it's like they want action. And so like we can get into it. But what I want to say is I don't know if, you know, if it's, I mean, it's definitely, I definitely get my ass kicked around the curse of the patriarch, as it's called, and the oppression of women, and essentially that, you know, I could go off on that.
But I think those are human things that have been introduced, you know what I mean? And belief systems, you know?
Yeah.
So you said man, it's like there's so much to unpack in every freaking sentence that we talk. It's
a lot. I know we're saying a lot.
Then you could just like hold up your finger if you want us to stop. Be like, just
no. I love it. I love
forever.
I think the cool thing is that you guys are so amazing at holding space, right, for people, and it's also something that I'm good at, and I love it, and I know you guys probably love it too, because it gives me back so much, you know, and so that's why I'm just quiet and listening, and now trying to remember what those things were that I wanted to say. No, because we just jumped in. It was like, you know, I said, hey, how you guys doing? And we just jumped right into the deep end and started talking about God and what is God, you know. I didn't expect to do that. I really want to actually, you know, hold some space for what you guys have going on, because it is all related to what we're talking about. So let me do that. I'm just desperately trying to.
Zen, before we go into that, can I ask you like your thoughts on God?
Absolutely, and I loved that you did that to Janice, by the way. That was awesome. It's amazing to watch Janice do what she's doing. She was so introverted and kind of just, I think, didn't even say anything to me. I think she just drew inspiration and saw what I got out of what I do here. And she's like, you know, I want to do Reiki full time. I'm very introverted. I think if I do a show, it'll put me out of my comfort zone. So her show is all about like jumping outside of her comfort zone, and watching her do it. It's almost like, you know, like, I don't know if you guys have ever done skydiving,
I have.
or you do adrenaline junkie things,
Yeah.
but like, you know, and not everybody is like this, like on a roller coaster. Some people are just, they've got this smile on their face. They're just so freaking happy because they're just there. That's what I see when I'm watching Janice do it. It's like, she's so happy to be connecting the way she is. And you guys were great and asked her some great questions, and she asked you some great questions. So it's just awesome to see, because it was so unexpected, you know, and it's so I want to say evolutionary. That's not the right word, but I'm watching her evolve.
Yeah. And also great job though. You, again, like a space holder, you're creating the space and holding the space for her to be able to do that too. And, you know, now you're allowing her to really come into her full self, her full expression of herself, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. Lifting each other.
That's, I mean, that's what happens in a good partnership, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it before, and I don't want to get into it right now, but I definitely do want to talk about you guys as podcasters, because man, I feel it already. You haven't even started, and like, I feel how much you have to say and how authentic it is and how important it is. You know what I mean? And you're going to reach a lot of people, and you know, I'm hoping to be a part of it. I'm hoping to help you out with it, and we could, again, we can talk about that.
You already are.
You already have been helping us out so much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, you know what? Before I forget, let me put up so this is actually a good little segue, I guess, which would be acid for squares. That's where we are today.
Yeah, we can talk a little about acid for squares now, and we can get into the woo of it. So I mean, first things first, you and this is the first time I think we've, like, this week, Janice's show, your show, I've kind of come out together.
Yeah, we did like something on like Instagram or something like that, but we have like no followers because we haven't told anybody what we're doing. So
and it's definitely interesting because, and it does kind of all like tie together. You know, I was talking about the feminine and Tanya, and you know, and we did the Awaken Underground, right? Tanya directed it, I hosted it, and you know, we produced it together. And you know, it's a psychedelic podcast. It was nominated in 2023 for an iHeartRadio Podcast Award for Best Spirituality and Religion Podcast.
Yeah.
I think it charted as the #1 spirituality podcast in the world.
Which is so funny because we try to make it not spiritual or religious on purpose, and then we somehow get nominated for the Spirituality Podcast Award.
It was the ultimate joke.
It was like
I literally said to her, I'm like, I killed bent over backwards, like her editing out all the crazy shit I say. I'm like, because I don't want to hurt the movement by being too weird. I'm like, let's stick to the science.
People are ready for weird.
But we did this show, and interestingly enough, I had to hold a men's circle. And I had to hold a men's circle for someone associated with the show on a high level for around a divorce that he was going through. And I go and hold the space for him, and we tap in, and I get like pretty the messages are pretty clear, which was essentially to have Tanya on the show as a guest. And that and so afterwards we kind of came back and had her come on the show. We did an interview, and it actually was like kind of a big healing for us. It was a lot of me. I kind of was censoring Tanya's experience a lot because I was not ready. I was too ashamed to share our experiences publicly. So I deal with a lot of shame around everything we're talking about.
And I had already started doing this because I created a TikTok channel called Divine Arcana, and I started already speaking about things that were far out in nature and consciousness and all this sort of stuff. And so I had already been receiving feedback from people being like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I've been meeting somebody. I thought I was crazy, blah, blah, blah. So Cody just hadn't experienced that yet. So I think I was just more comfortable speaking about that than he was at the time.
Yeah. And that's another thing. She's in like the field of projection of my own ego. And because we're in a partnership, she's getting filtered through my own internal self, if it's self-hate or shame or whatever I'm doing, she's getting it as well. So I'm projecting it onto her because I identify with her as my partner. Yeah. So we had this, we actually didn't even air the episode when we recorded it. But after it was done and we finished the show, which was sort of a healing for me of being able to, I believed I had to present this information in a certain way without being too spiritual or telling too much of exactly the work we do when as medicine people, as channels, whatever you want to call it. I, had that healing, and then her and me kind of came together, and it just became very clear. We did a very powerful medicine ceremony in Belize, the two of us. And we did a very specific meditation together, visualized, same time, same chant. I've never done it. Like man and woman in front of each other doing this very specific thing that we had read in it was an Egyptian alchemy like text.
We'll send it to you. Zen.
It's crazy. and we did it, and we had the clearest religious experience I've ever had. Wow. It was as if we had our eyes closed.
We didn't talk about this in the beginning. We both just had the experience. We got our eyes closed and we were going through it. And then afterwards we're like, let's just talk about what just happened. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I literally, we were just sitting there silently crying for a while, and then I think I said I can't believe what just happened. Like I literally watched like heaven open. It was pink and blue and perfect, and like we had eyes closed, and she had the same exact thing.
Same thing. Literally, it's pitch black,
experience.
and like hands were kind of like peeking around through the darkness, and then it opened up, and it was like, I don't know how to explain this. Like Cody and I did not believe in heaven, at all. And then all of a sudden we had the same exact experience.
That's awesome.
So we had a shared experience, and it changed the way we started to view things. Obviously, we're having a human experience. We are not quote unquote God. We are something less than, but we are learning what that means to be. Sure. And the lessons seem to be everything's ones and zeros, positive and negative charges, dicks and pussies, masculine and feminine, and that it's when these two opposites come together in harmony, they create life. Separate, they are not the creator, but when they come together, they create life. They are God. Totally. It became very clear that essentially I had, that we needed to come together as a team. And if we were going to practice what we preach, especially me, I could not have this woman essentially propping me up and being this behind the scenes person, that we needed to be like up front, side by side, and we needed to practice what we preached. So we formed Acid for Squares, our company. We do everything together, and we try to take the spirit of merging the polarities and actually bring it to earth, and be side by side teams. So I mean, so that's kind of like how we got here.
And it's pretty funny because so Cody and I, when we first met, we're both directors. Like I was the commercial director. He does pictures and stuff.
Both really amazing directors.
Thanks.
Love you.
And so it's funny because I was like, I don't want to date a director. Absolutely not. But then, he didn't want to date a director either. But it happened. So it's kind of difficult. It was like this ego thing of just trying to figure out how we fit together and how we could work together if we both do the same thing.
Right.
But we're starting to see, like, as the more we work together, we're seeing the nuances that we bring to it. Just like Janice had mentioned on her show that you're the visual artist and she's the writer, right? Like Cody is an incredible writer. If you haven't seen Awaken Underground, like you listen to the prologues, I mean, you literally are just like, what the hell? It's like a word bath.
Yeah. in a bad way as well.
A very sensual massaging word bath.
Thanks, and thank you for easing that.
And so he's the writer. He's an incredible writer, and it doesn't mean that I don't write. I've written too, but I do most of like the visuals for like when we go out to pitch stuff or whatever we're doing. But also Cody's a visual artist at the same time, but it's just, we're learning where how we can work together and that our strengths are in different areas. Like Cody's becoming like super boss man over here. And like, he's like business.
Fucking hate Hollywood. Don't even get me started. Well,
but he's doing a great job.
We're going a little on tangent, but the point is that, I mean, what we are as Acid for Squares is we're both directors, and we've both been Hollywood professionals for decades. Tanya has run multiple creative agencies as a lead creative director, and directed a ton of commercials from Star Wars to Timex, tons of shit. I'm a professional director and screenwriter. I'm in the DGA and the WGA, sold movies to, studios, and, I go off of my projects, but ultimately we're coming together to form a production company to make more conscious material. And at the end of the day, we really are we identify with sort of that healer archetype. We're interested in creating transformational experiences for people. And ultimately we believe that stories originally were used to essentially evolve consciousness through a contained simulation. And now with the oversaturation of content, people use it more as an escapist medium, as opposed and it's now can be something that separates people from themselves, from their families, from their friends, from the earth. So we're interested in taking the power back, sort of, and making
intention, making content that is, absolutely.
Which what you're doing.
I love the mission. I love what you guys are doing. I'm going to bring up the website. I'm going to talk about it in just a second. I'm writing stuff down so I don't forget it now. You talked about duality in a way, and it just reminded me of, something that Tommy Chong, I had an interview with Tommy Chong on this show that was amazing, and he said it's so simple. Positive and negative, you need them both to make electricity, and that's energy, and that's source right there. You know what I mean? It's you need both of those ingredients to have a whole. That was one thing I want to say. And then back to earlier, you were talking about, there was a few things that, again, this whole conversation, it just threads itself throughout itself, right? And you were talking about the way that things present themselves to you, like either on ayahuasca or not, spiritually, you know, that things are presented to you in the way that makes sense to you, right? And you said it got pretty intense. Some of the things that you're seeing, the way it's being presented to you, are pretty intense. And to me, all I'm thinking of is, well, it's different representations of infinite possibility, right? So of course it can get pretty intense, and the simplest ones are the ones we see, which reminded me of let me bring it back to this just so we can talk for a second. Reminded me of meditation for me, my own experience, and I know it's different for everybody, and I know even for me, and probably for you as well, it's different every time, right? There are different things, that different types of experiences. Sometimes they're recognizable, like, oh, this is this one, this is that one, this is what's happening. And for me, one of the things I see isn't the eyeballs all over the place. That is something that I can definitely relate to, and I think I'm like, oh, maybe I'm starting to recognize something that maybe I do see. But it's this face right here in front of me, right?
Whoa.
But it's a face. It's the face. It's every face.
Yeah.
It's every face. Sometimes
it's shifting.
It's shifting sometimes. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's somebody else specific. Sometimes it's an animal. Different animal faces.
Yes. I've been presented the same thing before, and this is the short version of the story is I would have a lot of. So when it comes to entheogenic medicines, the medicine or spirit will often show sort of the initiation to the other side is death. So going through an experience of death or what you're afraid of, and facing it and surrendering to it and trusting it. And I had a lot of resistance for a long time, and I was very jealous because Tanya was going way deeper than I was, and I was getting scared of what was being presented to me. And I was in a ceremony where I was able to sit through it. And this is a very common thing. People talk about snakes showing up and eating them or attacking them. And I was able to sit without moving, without breaking the channel, and let this vision of this reptile snake coming at me to, growling at me. And when I didn't respond or responded with love, it did that. What it did was it took this reptile's face and it spun it like a clock, all these different faces, from aliens to gods to humans to animals, and it all met. And then in the middle formed this face, this very singular face. And then they all fold together and said, we have many faces. We are all the ancient one. And the message is always that, yes, we are all the ancient one. It's so funny that we have this oh, your skin color, your gender, your hair. Oh, you're wearing this. We're exactly the same. We're just
having different experiences, though. That's why. But we wouldn't be able to have the experiences if we thought we all were one. Because then we wouldn't be having different experiences. We wouldn't be causing each other pain. We wouldn't be able to do things to help each other grow and have a very specific earth type of experience. So that's why we forget that we are, in order to remember, because we have to get through all the muck of being kind of shitty beings for a while. And then hopefully we evolve enough.
Well, I do think it's interesting that essentially, right, your reality is created by your thoughts and your belief system, which is essentially filtering your reality out, right? There's a part of your brain that literally chooses what it's going to receive and what it's not going to, known as the reticular activation system, right? It's a confirmation bias mechanism. We call it spiritually a free will mechanism. Essentially, you have to ask before you will receive something. Same way as you buy a new car, you see it everywhere. You hear a word you don't hear, you ask what it means. Next, you hear it all the time.
You're like, why am I hearing this all the time now?
Yeah, right. So I guess the point of what I'm trying to get to with talking about the RAS and talking about, what were you just saying a second ago? You were saying you were speaking. Geez, I'm all over the place. But you were saying. Tell me what were you just saying? I don't know. Well, Well, we're talking about like
we're having some word salad right now.
I know, but we were talking
Word
about like
buffet.
whatever. It doesn't. Forget about it.
Yeah.
No. Well, what were you saying a second ago, Zen? You were talking about you see a face when you meditate. And
Yeah, that's what I started with.
Take it, Zen.
Yeah. Let's. You know what? We're almost at an hour, but we can keep going as long as you guys are good. Let's go back to the present moment. Let's go back to acid for squares, right?
Okay.
You guys have, because I've always been a fan, Cody, of you and your work, and I've actually worked with you and been fortunate enough to see you in action and work on a set with you. And then through meeting you, Tanya, I saw your stuff. But acid for squares, you guys are you're starting this company. You have a project that I do want to talk about specifically, but on your site, you feature Awakened Underground. Obviously, you guys were talking about that and how you produced that together. Fool's Day, I don't think that you were involved in that, Tanya.
No,
I mean, that was quite a while ago.
That was way before me.
Yes, also something super, super brilliant, Cody, that I share with as many people as I can who I know would appreciate it for what it is. It's such a brilliant piece of work.
I share it all the time too. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to see that.
You're so good.
I'm happy to see that the original version of it is available on YouTube when you go to the Acid for Squares YouTube page. And then you've got this project here that I want to talk about. Can we talk about this project, or should we not talk about this project? I didn't get a chance to ask you what was cool or not to talk about, but I'm super excited about it personally. But
I don't even know if we can talk about it.
All right, then we won't.
But what else? I mean, just to not like to hang you out.
We can't say it's awesome.
I mean, you just yeah. I mean, ultimately, what I'll say about it is there's a project called Genesis, and we can't speak too much about it, but it's with the producer and director of The Simpsons, and it's an animated show, very much like in the vein of a show like Rick and Morty. And I mean, you know what? I mean, like,
I won't say too much.
Don't say too much. Okay. All I'll say is we're smuggling the secret teachings of all ages into a cartoon.
There you go.
We're very close to convincing
You've already said too much. You've already said too much. Which is, by the way, that is the classic clip that I took from the show when you appeared on the show. I don't know if you've seen it, but I made a short out of it because it's so funny. You're just like, you ask Jesse and me, you're like, let me ask you a question. Is this going to stay on the internet, or is this just like a live thing and going to go away? I'm like, no, it's staying on the internet. He's like, I've already said too much.
I literally, after doing the first interview, I had like a panic attack. I had to reach out Jesse. Like, Jesse,
I remember.
But this is before this is why we're doing Acid for Squares. That's why we're going to do our podcast, is because now he's cool with talking about the weird stuff.
I don't care. Nobody told me there would be an award for talking about spirituality on a podcast. Now I have another.
You put an award in front of you. He's like, what an award? I'm going.
No,
and you know what? I feel like that's such a testament to just being who you are and just doing what you believe from the gut, because you weren't looking for any accolades. You were just, I have something to say and I really want to say it. And you found a platform. This platform right here is so fucking amazing. That you and me, you know what? I totally forgot. We could be talking. You're sitting in California. I'm sitting in New York. And I feel like we should be sitting in front of a fire, right? A campfire.
Oh, so
I always told you, Tanya, around a fire. This is how to do it.
I feel like I wish you guys live closer. I know we will get together.
Next time we're there, we'll hang out.
Yeah, we will definitely get together.
And you and Jana should come out to California.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we appreciate you, man. Like I think this was the first show we ever. I mean, we didn't really speak publicly, not on a podcast. We never spoke really, Tanya, right? About our experiences.
I don't think so. Yeah, no. It was Zen. You just always the first person.
Yeah, Zen.
The first person we talked to about this stuff.
Get ready. I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow and be like, Zen, you gotta take it down.
No, you're not.
I said some crazy shit.
Well, let me tell you, both of your stories were so impactful on me. I mean, Shane, your story, Cody, your story, your story about, you know, your first excursion where you were told you were a Reiki master and then you were told you were going to die. I mean, that was just, I love, that was such a great episode, dude. I was really upset I had to take it down, but I was so happy I was able to put it back up.
Wait, is it still down? I said you could go back up.
No, it's up. The second you said I could put it back up, I did, and I cut it up into shorts. I mean,
honestly, the feeling is sort of this. I mean, first off, I want to say, you know, you both inspire me. You know, Janice as well. Hey, buddy.
He's hungry.
You inspire me, and you know, Tanya, to watch her go so boldly into her spiritual teaching, and it was really interesting. She had a lot of people. A lot of religious people come at her when she started putting things on TikTok. It was,
but mostly it was positive.
Mostly positive.
But the negative ones get in your head. They're like, you're speaking to demons, and I'm like, I am. No.
It's just that it's that weird thing where it's like to realize you're psychically censoring yourself. That like you know just feel bad about it. And at this point, I feel like the paradigm has shifted. Like the Pentagon has acknowledged aliens, ETs. And you know it's only getting more common, and disclosure is going to continue to happen. And at the end of the day, like what we think are ETs or extra dimensional beings, it's all a spiritual phenomenon, and it's all kind of breadcrumbing us to essentially connection with the greater cosmic community, which is actually what we're talking about when we talk about like spiritual practice.
Hallelujah.
Right. So, and there's no coincidence that this is happening simultaneously with the legalization and decriminalization of entheogenic medicines. Those are medicines for direct contact, and it was used by the shamans and mystics and witches and oracles.
We do believe they might be put here by them.
Probably, honestly.
Makes sense.
I mean, it makes
if
sense.
they
You
allow
know, again, yeah, all of the concepts and things you guys talk about, like they make so much sense, and that's why I'm excited about the project that you're talking about. But
or
also like or not talking about you know, your story, Tanya, really fascinated me too, and really is what's got me kind of like right at that precipice of like maybe I need to sit down with some shaman and do this, because the idea of a repressed memory existing, you know, as almost as a being itself, right? And having such an impact on who you are in the present, and being able to address that and like instantly address it, and like, oh my God, boom, it's addressed. You know, I don't know if you remember, you told me the story of being led to yourself as a little girl under the piano.
Oh yeah, no, healing my back from in a ceremony. I mean, I literally could not move. Every single day I would just lay on the floor and cry. I was in so much pain. And one ceremony, literally met my younger self, went through a trauma of like going to the bathroom. And then when I finally talked her into it and walked her through the entire situation, I came out of the ceremony and my back just went and like opened, and I haven't had any back pain since. It's crazy. Like in my head, it doesn't make any sense. Like it's I went through it and it still doesn't make any sense. He healed his back in a ceremony also. Like
I think
it's a real thing.
I think Tanya, the crazy, we try not to say that.
No, yeah, not crazy, not the C word.
The amazing thing.
The wild. No,
the amazing thing about it is that it was the childhood trauma was from getting hit by a car as a kid.
Yeah.
Yet the ceremony was a childhood trauma that healed an illness from a non-related thing. And it sort of points to holographic reality, which is sort of how your internal world influences the actual physical world.
Even though also where my back was though is exactly where my intestines are. So it makes sense that it's like the same spot. It's like the same chakra, whatever it may be. But yeah, sorry, the dog is
yeah, I was gonna say one of you guys should feed the dog. But what's amazing is kind of all of the different almost like science fictional concepts that this experience touches on. I mean, it's to me, I'm hearing a story of someone who literally time traveled, interacted with their younger self, changed themselves in the present moment. Like that's fucking crazy. No,
I have not.
That's fucking incredible.
I have not thought about it that way. I really love. That's actually really cool. Think about time travel because it's
gotten us to literally say, well, like when we pray, because now we pray like before meals, it's a part of our daily ritual. is that we're praying to our future selves, and and that when we interface with anything that comes through, it's our future selves.
I love that.
And it's wild. I mean, but that is really what you're dealing with.
Because I'm gonna think about this, like, say maybe you're like a child and you saw something in the corner of your room or whatever, but then you're like 50 years old and you're doing a ceremony and you appear in the room exactly in that spot. Maybe your child self was actually seeing you coming into that moment.
Ooh, I just got crazy chills. Ooh,
right?
Because
everything's all at the same time.
Totally interstellar.
Everything
Yeah, I love it. Oh,
it makes no fucking sense
in a logical, logical,
but at the
tiny
same
mind.
At the same time, like
it makes all the sense.
It makes all the sense. And the funny thing is when you're having that, when you're a kid and you see something in the darkness or whatever, and you get scared, you turn the light on or open the door or run to your parents' room, and it's a fear of ourself. At the end of the day, so much of what we're dealing with is fear of ourself.
Fear of our own power.
Fear of our own power, fear of creation, fear that, it's nice. Yeah, feed the dog. Yeah. It's wild, man. The whole thing is wild. And I think we always say the more we know, the more we don't know.
Yeah.
And
the more we realize we don't know anything.
Yeah. Right. And it's but at the same time, it's like we're along for the ride, right?
That's what I was just gonna say. The more you realize that, you're just like, I'm along for the ride. It's just a wild ride.
It is a wild ride.
So Tim is out there. Tim, I don't know if you know Tim. He's in Brazil. He's a good friend of Jesse's.
Hey.
And he's had some real traumatic health issues. And he's saying would be great if you heal me. I don't know, Tim, if you've ever thought about anything like ayahuasca or anything, but Cody and Tanya, what would be your, I don't know if advice is the right. What would be your response to somebody who says, "Hey, this happened to me when I was younger, and I'm thinking about doing something"?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I want you to kind of like take it. I just want to say, yeah.
So we definitely believe that all trauma is stored in the body, right? So just like the healing of my back, that was a trauma that was stored in my body. Something that may seem insignificant now as I'm older was significant back then enough to create a trauma in my body and create a pain that needed to be unblocked and released. Mm-hmm. This is what happens to people all the time in ceremonies, is that they come back to a time or a feeling or a trauma or whatever it may be, and they're able to work through it. And then it might not be as instant as mine was, where it's just like a decompression of my back, but it could be something where over the next couple of months, they're like, wow, I don't have anxiety anymore. Why am I not thinking about that trauma the same way anymore? And they're able to release it, because it is for ayahuasca, it's dealing with the hardest shit you possibly can. But I call it like while being cradled in like a mother's arms, because she's grandmother ayahuasca. She's a feminine energy to her. So you're being held, but you're also having the shit beat out of you. Right. So, but
I mean, so
I love you, damn it.
It's
like 20 years of therapy in like one night.
I want to get into Tim. I want to find out. Well, there's two things. So
we can talk to Tim.
Can you heal me? So first off, no one can heal you. You can only heal yourself. And we said earlier, like, we're healers, or we identify with that. But it's actually something that we hesitate sometimes to say, because it implies that essentially someone else is providing healing. It's the same way the word God can imply that it's separate from you. Religion can do that. When we're talking about returning to a state of wholeness and self-empowerment, right? So and look, I did healings for years. After I was attuned to my first ceremony, it was my favorite thing. After work, I'd love to smoke a joint and do healings. I'd never taken $1. It was my favorite thing to like share that with someone.
Awesome.
And long story short, I did a plant medicine ceremony, and I literally got scolded for it. And the message was that I was made to take a vow to stop doing Reiki. And I was told, this is very specific for me. So this is not for everyone.
Right.
This is where I was told that that I was pandering to the illusion that an external force was going to help these people, instead of inspiring them to heal themselves, and to not put my hands out, but to put my hands together and to be the healed, not the healer. And I actually did take a vow, and I'd stopped for them. but then and still trying to integrate how much I can do or cannot do.
But also now he's not really, even if it's not hands-on healing, there's other ways of doing it. Like, again, like you were talking about Zen, like we're all space holders.
Right. So
and we hold a very specific vibration that we've learned how to channel. We've learned how to hold that sort of energy, which allows that sort of clear, focused energy to be able to help somebody. But again, if they're not willing to let go of the thing that made them sick in the first place, they're not going to heal.
Right. And that's so what we'd want to say to Tim is like, brother, like at the same time though, like we got you. Let's talk about this for a second. So we work with entheogenic plant medicines. And I don't know what you're going through, but these medicines are crazy doctors. And if you're having
doctors,
I mean, literally you could be dealing with MS. And if the allopathic Western model had failed you, it's something you could go to. I would say that they're like the big five sort of are ayahuasca, psilocybin mushroom, wachuma, ibogaine, and then I'd say like DMT or Vilca. And
DMT is wild if you just do it alone.
Right. But there are also synthetics like ketamine, MDMA, and LSD. We do not advise this as much, although a ketamine treatment is something legally that you could get with a therapist and can have great healing benefits.
Because it allows you to disassociate from your body during ketamine treatment. So you're when you're with a practitioner or somebody that's helping a therapist, you take the ketamine and it allows you to disassociate from your body as they're giving you things to work through. So you're looking at it from a third party perspective, which allows you to heal. Because a lot of times we identify with the trauma instead of allowing us to just observe it. So that's why ketamine is really great for that. MDMA is really great for it because it's a heart opener. It just allows you to feel love and acceptance for all that is. But we tend to steer people away from synthetics just because it feels like there's a lack of a spirit to it. When you do entheogenic plant medicines, it's just a completely different experience.
Right. And I mean, and we could go off on, we can tell you how and what to do, but I mean, the curious thing, like Tim, if you're still like listening, do we know what Tim's been dealing with? Or what the pathology is? Do we know what he's going through?
You know what? Let me connect you with him because
we can connect later.
It's like a lifelong. Tim had at one point had his stomach removed.
Whoa.
So it's all sorts of crazy health issues and different things.
Tim is a warrior. Damn.
He is a freaking warrior and a half, and he is the nicest guy and met a beautiful woman and woman. And he just had a baby and is just,
congratulations.
So many amazing things. And she just actually was cancer free after a little scare. So all good stuff,
Amazing. Good things.
Yeah, really, really good things. He says Jesse's been wanting to take me for an ayahuasca ceremony as well.
We can talk about it, Tim. We can talk about it.
I'll hook you up with him. Yeah, Tim's great. I'll hook you guys up with him and you can learn more about the things he's gone. I have a question for me personally. Hold on. I dropped something here. I know Janice talks about kind of what you said too. She does Reiki, but she feels very strongly that, she's not healing somebody. She is helping them heal themselves, through what she does. And actually Janice gets oftentimes medium kind of messages through Reiki.
Yes.
So if they're there to be had, she gets those messages, which is really cool.
I feel like those are the real Reiki healers. Like when they're like, I'm like getting like a message, I'm feeling something. Like if the best Reiki I've ever received, they have always had that clairvoyance, like that understanding of being able to connect with the other side. So I completely understand that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Zen.
No, I was gonna say, and Janice's hands physically, like when the first time she did Reiki on me before we dated or even connected in any way, I literally thought that she had like a hot rock or something that she was keeping her hands up on and then doing the Reiki. Her hands were so like physically hot. It was really crazy.
That's so cool.
One thing I want to share about like Reiki and like what Janice does, and also talking about before, like not being the healer and all that. One of the things, and I think it comes from being a novice.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I think it comes from like being a novice on on my journey, like still learning. And I was so excited about first off, I was like, how is this even fucking real? That you can actually like, heal people. I mean, you could, someone has a headache, I could hold my hand over their head for 10 seconds and be gone. It's magic. And it made me seriously. So I guess what kind of happened was I got so excited, my ego sort of transferred over to this identity of being the healer, so that I started to believe that I was the one doing the healing, and it kind of inflated my ego. And as a result, I would get sick. It would transfer over to me. My family literally had to have like a fucking intervention of me and be like, yo, like Cody, you have to you look terrible. Like you need to stop, and I share it because it's important. I think along a spiritual journey, a lot of us people can get an ego around the spiritual identity, and it can be detrimental. So, I mean, but at a certain point in my development, I started to learn, thanks to my teachers, you're a vessel. It's not you. It's
it realigned itself. It kind of needed to realign. It sounded like, and Janice says it's amazingly real. Yeah, it sounded like like you even specifically said, you're like, this is just for me. You know what I mean? You were kind of almost validating, like, Reiki is not invalid. Reiki is a thing, but
Reiki's amazing.
Yeah, Reiki's amazing.
Life changing. Everyone should be attuned to learn how to do it. We all do it subconsciously. Oh, my head hurts. Oh, I have anxiety.
Oh, I just fell and hurt my knee.
Oh, my stomach hurts.
Yeah.
We all do it. We all have it. It's just the conscious awareness of what you're doing, and then understanding how to step out of the way and protect yourself so you can be a clear channel for source conscious. It's just knowing the password to the Wi-Fi of God we were talking about.
You know what? It's funny because to you and I, certain things seem so simple, right? But there are people who are so deeply attached to their own belief systems that they don't even receive the words that you're saying.
The other thing that's really strange is that I've told Cody this many times, like, I wish like 10, 15, 20 years ago, I would have like had a recording or written something down that said what I believed, what, how I thought the world worked, all that stuff. Because now I'm like, I always thought this, right? Because you forget, like, once you remember, you forget that you didn't know. And so it's kind of hard unless you are like have a very specific story or something that reminds you of where you were before. It's hard to see where you came from. And I am reminded of it though when I have friends of mine or something like that come to me with questions about like concepts or ideas about spirituality or how to deal with trauma and stuff like that. And it just happened the other day. Cody and I were helping a friend of ours out, and it was something I was like, oh wow. I was like, I remember when I didn't quite understand this thing, and it took me like a while of listening to other people or like trying to really understand the concept. And then it just takes some time, but it's just interesting that, everyone like kind of like step by step.
This is what I was trying to explain before when I got pulled off, when I totally lost my thought. And ironically, every time I talk about this, I pretty much lose my thought. Maybe that's bullshit, but so what she was talking about is essentially it's step by step by step. And the reason for this is free will. It all comes down to free will. So we all have our free will. Ask and you shall receive. Essentially, until you ask, you cannot receive it. And so I was talking about the reticular activation system and how, essentially you could walk through a crowd, you won't hear any of the conversation, but if you hear your name, boom, you hear someone just said your name, right? You notice it. It's a confirmation bias mechanism. Essentially, it filters out what you do not want in your reality. That's why it's not what's true, it's what's true for you. So the mechanism of being, so essentially you're saying, oh, people can't even hear it. They literally cannot.
They literally can't hear it.
It's the design of it. And we were just talking about this the other day.
It's a part of the game.
You ever be in like a real contentious conversation with somebody where no one's hearing each other and it's like you're having two different conversations at the time, and you're having a shared reality, but you're a completely separate reality because you're only perceiving what you're willing to hear that is happening. So it's a fascinating mechanism, but you know, people call it a confirmation bias mechanism, the RAS, but really it's a spiritual mechanism around free will. You will, until you ask, you will not be given it. And it's that simple. It's a mechanism of creation. I mean, all of life is, go ahead, Zim.
I think there's and you and I think realize this, there is growing up all of these things against that, right? That kind of condition you to even think that, right? Like, you know, to make you who you are. And I'm gonna hopefully not make you too uncomfortable here, Cody. Just for a second. But you know what you were saying, Tanya, about looking back at yourself and being like, oh wow, I knew these kind of things back then. It's also true the opposite, right? So for me, I love to watch old videos of myself because it's like a different person. It's like watching a different person, right? So I was amazed. I had never seen this. But having worked with you, Cody, and being good friends with Jesse, at one point I took a look at what the hell was it called, that twisted reality show that you did? And I was
one thing you could bring up though, embarrassing.
I was watching two different people, not two. I was watching a whole different family. I mean, 100%. That was a whole different family. You know what I mean? 100%. And it was still a cool family, but it was like spiritually maybe not so much. But
he's only let me watch one episode. He wouldn't let me. I was like, can I watch?
You don't want to watch it. You don't want to watch it.
we literally, I was like,
we did a healing.
I was like, we need to make a healing of it. Like, we're gonna play it, and then
he's like, if I need to stop,
you know,
then we're gonna stop it.
There's, I mean, like,
but it's true. It is a different family. It feels like that for sure.
What's that great saying? You just met. You alluded to it at the top of this. It was like the whole like, man or woman goes into the river twice.
Oh, you can never stand in the same river twice.
Right. But it's not that the river has changed, it's that the person has changed.
Right.
So essentially, exactly. So, I mean, like, I feel exactly the way you feel about observing like the past self. I'm like, that's not even me. Right. I mean, and I don't know. Does everyone feel that way? Does everyone?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it goes both ways. I watch myself and I see the parts of myself that I'm like, oh man, I didn't know a lot of stuff. But then I watch like when I'm playing in a band, right? Like I had no idea back when I was younger playing in a band that I was actually connecting to source in those moments.
Yeah. Right.
But now that I can understand that, I can watch it and be like, look at how happy I am. Look at how
that's cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then also I can say, "Ooh, look how I treated that person. Look what I just said to that person." They're like, "That was me. Holy crap!" You know. So and I can imagine. You know, again, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Although Grace,
no, it's okay. It's okay. Grace, brilliant show.
Brilliant show. And you know what? It was in its own way. Again, it had a Snider energy to it, so it could be nothing but amazing.
You know that show was like very. It was a very like. I guess it was scarring. So it was, I mean, I wouldn't say
they were very
scarring.
young, so that makes sense.
Well, we were very young, but it was this weird.
It almost traumatized all of them.
Yeah, it pretty much did.
You know,
it pretty much did. But it was the weird thing of like, you do the show and you make friends with all the crew and reality's bullshit, right? So you're sitting there and going, well, these are our plans for the summer in a production meeting. You're going, we have a Sweet 16 and we have a baptism and Dee has a March of Dimes, Bikers for Babies. Oh, Cody has a premiere, right? Oh, this could be an episode. This could be an episode. And you start spitballing. Oh, this would be funny. This would be funny. Like everything's sort of all pre-planned. And then you show up and it's on the schedule. Okay, you guys are going to talk in the kitchen. So it's this big fucking like, kind of you're like it's real but it's a little make-believe and you're kind of in on it and then it comes out and everyone treats it like it's reality. And I remember like walking into my friend's house and his parents talking to me so differently. It was that feeling as if you'd walked into a room and you were just being spoken about and you were like, and it was so different and it I could see people kind of change their perspective on me and I was like, oh shit, like I was inside the joke. None of those people are inside the joke. They think this is how it like really is, and it it traumatized young girls.
Right, nothing real about
reality TV.
And then Tim's out there growing up twisted. That was the name of the show. And Tim watched every episode.
Yeah, Tim. We're gonna
you know, again, it was certainly entertaining. You know, there are definitely some amazing things about your family that you can see there, you know what I mean? But also, you know, again, knowing you now and knowing and again, this is also coming from my perspective, right? For me, something so important to me in the last bunch of years is being aware of how I treat other people, right? The impact that I make on the world around me, you know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing that I'm saying. You look back and you watch yourself and you're like, okay, you know, I definitely learned some things, and okay, I believe some things. Like one of the things I say, because I still live on Long Island, even though you don't. Long Island's a small place, and I've been here my whole life, and I can be very confident that I left a good wake in my past. You know what I mean? Like that people who I've encountered, there's nobody out there who's going like, that fucking dick Mike Zinn. Oh my God. You know, and I'm not saying there isn't. There probably is one or two of those people who I probably really wouldn't really give their opinion much.
I can't really imagine that at all. There's no way. You're just like the coolest dude. There's no way.
We met like 11 or 12 years ago on a music video shoot, and same dude. We just talk about weirder shit. That's the only thing that's changed. Only thing that's changed is we're just talking about stranger things.
You guys are just getting older and weirder.
That's right. Older and wiser, older and weirder.
Yeah, the way it needs to be.
I love that so much. You know what? I want to be respectful of your time. It's been amazing. I'm gonna have to have you back.
Yeah, man. Of course.
We're gonna have to do this again.
Anything you need, Zen, your family. And then you know, one thing we'd say to like anyone who's watching is, you know, like follow Acid for Squares. We're on social media. It's a young company. And
we're just starting out, so there's gonna be good stuff coming. We promise.
We have some movies. We have our animated show Genesis with the producer of The Simpsons, David Silverman.
Docu-series.
A
couple movies.
Medicine. Yeah, and I mean, and honestly,
podcast. Yeah,
we're
gonna do events too.
We're gonna do events. We have the Acid for Squares podcast, which will come out at the end of this year. I mean,
end of this month.
End of this month.
At the end of this year.
And I mean, it's gonna get weird. It's gonna get real weird.
But come get weird with us.
Yeah, come get weird with us.
You know what?
I'm
so excited for you guys and for whatever it is that comes out of it, because it is conscious content. You know what I mean? And it's created with the intention of raising the vibration. And I think anything that's created with that vibration, you know, it's got to be good on some level.
Yeah, just like your shows.
Yeah, then
thank you so much. Thank you. Let me put you in the back room for a second. You could kick your dog or feed him or something. And I'll see you in a minute. Don't go away.
Thanks, Ed. Okay.
I want to talk to you, but thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we'll see you again on the show very soon.
Thank you, Zed. Thank you, my gang.
Let me put out this fire here. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was just a last minute thing. I'm like, I wish I was hanging around a campfire, and I did this test and I got this graphic to work. So I'm going to work on that. That's going to be even better. The show's going to improve. I'm going to have cool animated things going on. I don't know, something. My show is going to improve as well. Because you guys have been so great, and I love doing this, and I think it just needs a little more focus and intention. I love you guys for always being here, and next week, let me take a look on my calendar. I'm going to open it up. Oh, I have Yogi Satya on my program next week. You guys might have seen him on the Fool's Journey, the other broadcast I do with the tarot cards, but he's an amazing yogi, mindful, spiritual practice person. So we're going to talk about the same kind of stuff that we always talk about here. So thank you guys for being here, Ninja Kitty. Thank you for always encouraging me and telling me how amazing the show is. I love that. And Tim also. I gotta start sending my checks out and paying you guys for all of this love. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for being here. Peace.
What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome